And it is time to talk with Milestone Financial, Building Rural Wealth. Dan Miller with me.
You bet. Absolutely.
How are you, Dan?
I'm great, Aaron. How are you? And happy Father's Day to you and all the other fathers out there.
Yes, and happy belated Father's Day to you as well.
Well,
Hopefully,
thank you.
Rachel Dorr with us as well. Rachel, how are you?
Good, Aaron. Thanks.
We're going to get into it here a little bit, Dan. So, salary versus dividends in a privately held company. Okay. I want you to set this up for me a little bit.
Okay. Well, of course, we have Rachel with us today, and she's our tax accountant.
Yes.
And, and I know this was one of her thoughts that we, come up with a show built around this. And, of course, as everybody knows also, we do a lot of work with rural businesses. I mean, building rural wealth in the Midwest and throughout the country is all about working with small businesses. And, this is a topic that we run into eventually with every small business owner, and that is, how do you pay yourself? And we battle with this in our small business sometimes, I mean, do you pay yourself a salary? Do you just only take dividends out? Do you a combination of both? How do you do that? So, there's so much to consider, and we'll get into it a little bit here, and it really depends on the company, your role, your goals, what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay, so Rachel, why does it matter?
Well, there's a lot of factors that go into, paying yourself in your business that does affect your taxes, both your income and payroll tax. It affects your eligibility for retirement contributions, which is something that, business owners don't always think about when they're trying to figure out how to pay themselves.
Yep.
And then your cash flow in your business and ultimately the long-term stability of the business. So like Dan mentioned, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. The best strategy really depends on your situation, your business structure, and your goals moving forward. So, the method of your payment, salary versus dividend, that can change your tax bill significantly, and it also impacts how much money stays in the business. So all these things need to be factored in when figuring out how to pay yourself in your business.
You just named some big ticket items between taxes, your eligibility for retirement, and your business's cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
These are big ticket items we need to be thinking about.
It is, and if I can add right on to what Rachel said, when you're talking about retirement contributions, you're also talking about Social Security.
Yeah.
Because your Social Security contributions are based on salary. So,
yep. Okay. So let's understand the entity types, Dan. What are we talking about here?
Well, there's lots of different types. Of course, you can be a sole proprietor. You can be a partnership. But then, the ones we think about, out there are S corporations. With S corps, you can pay both yourself a salary and dividends. C corporations also allow both, but you got to be very careful there, because then the dividends actually often get taxed twice. And then also, I need to clarify one thing. I am not the tax professional here, so I don't want to give anybody to construe anything I'm saying as tax advice. Rachel gave us the background for this, so
yes.
She's our tax professional.
And she is a professional.
I do need to clarify that.
Let's talk about how we're going to pay ourselves. If we do a salary, Rachel, what are the pros and cons with that?
Well, one of the biggest pros of paying yourself a salary is, you have that predictable income. As a small business owner, you see the ebbs and the flows of the business, and, sometimes paying yourself is kind of an afterthought. So it's important, you're working hard in your business. So if you pay yourself that salary, you got that predictable income for yourself and your family. Like Dana mentioned, it helps with the Social Security. Again, not something people really think about. If you're not paying yourself, you're not contributing to Social Security. And that goes with the S Corps and the C Corps. Now, if you're like a sole proprietor, that's going to flow onto your personal income tax. And you're going to pay your Social Security there with the profits from the business.
Okay.
I hope that's not too deep, but again, these are, situations that are unique to each business and their owner. And then again, the retirement plans, those are based off of your earned income. So that salary is the earned income. Those dividends are not. So that's definitely a factor to keep in mind. And the taxes for the business. and all those tax deductions.
What's considered a reasonable salary, Rachel?
Well, that is a good question, and oh, it's quite
My
a hot
definition of
topic.
reasonable is maybe different than someone else's, and so
Yep,
what's a
100%.
reasonable salary?
Yeah, and there's so much wiggle room there, and we do reasonable salary in air quotes.
Yes.
We really do. But the IRS does require you to pay yourself that reasonable salary as if you had hired yourself as a professional to work in the business. Now, that's definitely a rule in an S corporation. So if you're a business owner and you're an S corp and you're not paying yourself that reasonable salary, then you're not in compliance in the eyes of the IRS, and that could come to get you.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
And there's so, like Rachel said, there's so much ambiguity on that because, it's like, well, if you're, like myself, we have an S corp,
Yeah.
well, I really don't do much in there, I don't need to pay myself much of a salary. Well, that's not much of an argument if it,
Right.
if you're the president of the firm or whatever, and like, let's say, for example, you correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel, if there's 3 or 4 other people in the firm that are getting paid more than you and you're just paying yourself a little bit, I'm guessing the IRS is going to look at that going, wait a minute,
Yeah.
you're going to have to prove to me that you're only working part-time or something here.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you can definitely do that and pay yourself that lower salary, but you have to be able to justify that.
Got to back it up.
Yes.
The reasonable is a little bit gray.
Yes,
It's
very
a little
gray.
bit gray.
Very.
That's for sure.